All right. Well, thank you for coming to our session today. We know it's Friday, it's a little rainy and dreary here in South Florida, but we do think this is a very important session. It's called Where Should I Publish My Research? And I think the second part of this title is important. You have library support through the entire publication cycle. So if you walk away with nothing else from this session today, know that you have support. You have there's a librarian for each discipline at FIU. You have your personal librarian. We can help you from stage one all the way to publication. We welcome you to the WorkSmart Library Workshop Series. You can learn more about the other series in this by going to library.fiu.edu/work-smart. All the sessions, the workshops are recorded. So if you missed one, go back and watch the recording. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started, and thank you for coming. So who are we? We'll start with Sabine. Sabine, you want to say who you are?
My name is Sabine Dantis. I'm an outreach and reference librarian at the BBC campus at Hubert Library. And my liaison area is journalism and media.
Joanna?
Hi, and my name is Joanna Fernandez. I am the health sciences librarian here at the FIU Libraries.
And I'm Sarah Hamill. My title is Business and Online Learning Librarian, but I think more importantly for all three of us, we work at the best place on campus. We work at FIU Libraries, and we're part of the Learning and Research Services team. Again, we're three librarians of many. We all have different subject areas that we specialize in. I also cover psychology, sociology, economics, and anthropology, but we have colleagues that also cover a variety of the disciplines offered at FIU. So if you are a bio major, we can connect you with someone who can help you with bio, for example, and so on and so forth. So we want you to know that you have help through the process. Okay, so this is our agenda. We're going to talk about basically we're focusing on the scholarly publishing cycle through the entire presentation today and the different steps in it. So brainstorming and the current literature and methodology, and then we'll identify publishing opportunities, how to evaluate publications for fit, talk about, of course, open access, which is a big move right now in publishing, and then citation metrics, which is important as well. So the scholarly publishing cycle. This wheel kind of explains the publishing cycle. It starts with creation, which is right here. Research gets proposed, or maybe you're in a class and you're doing some research. I'm noticing now the images for this are not showing up, so it shouldn't say the caution buttons. It should have images. So just imagine they're real images in there. So the creation part, maybe you're in a class and you've done some original research and you're thinking about, well, you know what? I want to publish this. How do I go about that? So that's the creation part. And then the next part is identifying, evaluating, and selecting potential output for your research. And then followed by evaluation. Academic works are evaluated for quality and edited by their peers, called the peer review process. We'll talk a little more about that. So many publications are peer reviewed, but that's not the end all, because you can also publish in different formats. You can publish in a book chapter, and so on and so forth, as well as maybe a trade publication, important in some fields. And then the publication. So the publisher provides editing, layout, and publication services for you. And then, of course, dissemination and access. Works are distributed in print or online, through libraries, through databases, through the web, depending on what route you go with your publication and dissemination. And then, of course, you want to preserve some copies or versions of the work can be saved for posterity. And we'll talk about how you can do that within the digital commons here. And your work is going to be used, it's going to be read, it's going to be cited, it's going to be recombined and republished, and the cycle starts again. And maybe you'll take parts of your work and cite yourself and do another publication from it, or others will do that. So that's the publication cycle, and we're going to talk about each part of it now. So step one, creation, brainstorming, thinking about your topic, maybe getting some background information on your topic, looking at the current literature on the topic, and deciding on a methodology. So that's the first one. Probably all of us are very familiar with this, because if we are in a class or we're doing research, we are brainstorming different ways to get our ideas out there. and we might have some familiarity with the literature, but there may be like different multidisciplinary fields that you want to to browse against and check and see what they're doing in different fields. And of course, methodology is like how to put your research together and move forward from that. So a little more on that. So brainstorming, Credo reference is a great tool for background information and general information on the topic. And it links to other databases. So Credo reference is a database. We subscribe to 1,200 plus databases. We're going to cover a few today, but we have many, many more, of course, that we can't cover in the span that we have. But probably the strongest thing about Credo reference is the mind map. If you're thinking about a certain topic, how do you go about identifying other synonyms or other terms that you can use for searching? And I'm going to show you these. I'm going to do a live demo after this. I'm just going to go run through these slides really quickly. I think a live demo will show it more concretely. And I forgot to mention this. If you have any questions, if I'm talking too fast, if you want me to repeat something, please just go ahead and unmute yourself or put it in the chat, and I can stop, I can go back, because I do tend to talk fast, but I'm passionate about this, as you can see. Okay. So you do want to review the current literature, right? If you have an idea for a topic, you want to take the temperature of the literature on that topic. You can filter in most of our database by doing an advanced search and saying, I want a specific type of methodology, for example. You can determine if the topic needs an update. So maybe there is a topic you're interested in and there hasn't been much published on it, or there's new ways of thinking about it, especially with with AI becoming infiltrated in everything. And then of course, you want to look forward and backwards at citation searches. What does that mean? That means you want to, if you find a core article on your topic, you want to, of course, look at the references that are cited in that article, but you want to see if anything cited that article. And I'll show you some way to do this, but Sabine will go into detail about this. Methods. We have a database called Sage Research Methods. It can help you identify a research method, but also can kind of clarify if you're still fuzzy about different methodologies. This will help you. This is a great tool to help you kind of identify the different methodologies that are available and how maybe they're used in your field. Okay. And then we have a number of databases I mentioned that you can filter by methodology. Two of the owners of the databases within, like ProQuest, we have different databases within there, and EBSCO are great sources that I will show you one of them. Okay, so any questions so far before we go to the live demo?
Yes, one quick question. So you did mention the Credo. Like, do we have access to that?
Yes.
Or is that access to the library?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that right now. That's a great question. It's kind of like a great segue, actually, because I'm going to do a live demo of Credo right now.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just go out of my PowerPoint here, and I'm going to go to the library website. And let me make this a little bigger. You guys can see my screen correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the library website, and I'm sure you've all seen it before. If not, welcome to the library website. It is your starting place for research. It's library.fiu.edu. There's a ton of information on here. As I mentioned, we have subject specialists in each of the different disciplines at FIU. You can find them by going to find subject librarians and resources. You'll see here, they're listed here, their names and their emails, okay? You can request and you can reach out to them. For now, I'm going to show you how I like to frame when I'm doing research, when I'm showing and teaching, or when I'm looking for information, how I use the library website as the general rule. I go to the library website, library.fiu.edu. I click on Research Start, and then you'll see Credo reference right here because it's background information and reference sources. I'm going to go into Credo just to show you how it looks and how you can navigate through there. Of course, we all know how to do this, right? We do it many, many times a day. We log in. And we wait patiently. I'm on campus. Sometimes it's quicker at home for some reason. Okay, so once you're in here, you can browse by subjects, collections, producers. You can search. for today, I'm just going to click on artificial intelligence because that is the hottest topic ever out there right now, right? I find that students either love it or they're like stay so far away from it. So you'll find some articles here about artificial intelligence, and then over here you'll find the mind map. And if you're looking at it, you can say, oh, what other words I can use? Or maybe, maybe you're in cognitive science. Maybe you are a psychology major and you want to look at it from a cognitive science point of view. So this mind map is really, if you're a visual learner, it's a great tool for you. And then I mentioned that it links to other library resources. Just find them down here. There's many more. Okay, so you can go in, say, I want to go into ProQuest, for example, Business Source Complete, depending on your topic. So that is just like really a good starting place for your brainstorming. I think really it's kind of, I like to think of it as the Wikipedia of the library. It's kind of like, it's encyclopedic type information, but it does link out to different places. It's a great tool to get started. Okay. So that's Credo. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going back to the Research Start page, and I'm going to click on Subject Resources. I like to show this to anybody who's navigating the library website because it is where you're going to find your person, your liaison, your library person in the library, but as well as you're going to find those main databases in your subject area. So if you're a bio major, you click on biological science. If you're history, you click on history. For today, I'm going to demonstrate psychology. And when you click on it, what you find is a list of guides in psychology and your library people. I'm one of them, and Grisel's the other. And then there's a tab for databases. All of the subject pages are laid out the same. What's great about the databases tab is that it has your best bets, okay? Because you'll see that there's 75 databases that have some content on psychology. But the best bets are a great place to start because it can be 75 databases. That's a lot. I mean, that's not 1,200 plus databases, but 75 is a lot. If you are, in the midst of your research, you don't want to be like trying to figure out where to start. So always start with the best bets. For today, I'm going to show a quick search in PsycInfo. And I'm going to stick with, so this comes up by advanced search. If it doesn't, always go to the advanced search in any database you're in. It just makes it easier to navigate and figure out what you're doing. So for today, I'm just going to type in metacognition, for example, and then I'm going to type in and artificial intelligence or AI or a punto I punto. So I'm using and between my terms, just a review. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. I'm using and between my terms to tell it to find the word metacognition with either artificial intelligence or AI or AI. So when you use and, you're narrowing your search. When you use or, you're saying either or. It's kind of like synonym searching, okay? And then you can see here, we can limit to peer review. So I'm going to go ahead and just search. In a peer-reviewed article, really quickly, we're going to cover it a little more detail, but basically it's been reviewed by other scholars in the field and gone through the editing and reviewing process. And if it's good, sound, reliable, credible research, it's accepted for publication. Okay, so we get our results, and you can see here, there's many. I could have gone over here and I could have said methodology, for example. I could have said I want a specific methodology. Well, it's a little slow, or on the top screen, I could have done it there as well, just to show you that. And you can see I want, okay, now I'll show you. Like if I wanted just empirical studies or if I wanted quantitative, qualitative, and so on and so forth. So that's another tool for you in your toolkit. I'm going to go ahead and just scroll through here and find one that looks good to show you a few things about it. I'm going to go with this one from December 2025. So it's relatively recent, identifying students' metacognition patterns by their needs for cognitive closure and human Gen I collaboration. So click on the title. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this. If not, this is good review, or if you are, it's good review. If not, well, now you're learning something new. So when you click on the title, of course, you get the information about the article and you get the abstract. And we all know we should always read the abstract. And then subject terms, right? We can see that metacognition is a subject term and generative artificial intelligence is a subject term as well. So we could say we want just everything that's been tagged as metacognition and generative artificial intelligence. But for today, really what I kind of get sidetracked, my apologies. What I want to show you is that this article has 76 references. So this article has cited 76 references. So if this is an article that's spot on for your type of research or what you're thinking about publishing, you would want to go and see which of those references you want to find. I also want to point out that it says 2 cited on ProQuest. This means 2 articles that are available through ProQuest, which is the name of the database vendor, have cited this specific article from December 2025, which is not that long ago. And then also you'll see here 1 cited on Web of Science, also called Journal Citation Reports. And Sabine's going to go into more detail about that, where you can, which is the best tool really to look and see what has cited an article that you find. So future citations, like forward thinking. So I just wanted to point that out to you. So in some of our databases, you do have the option, you'll see where an article has been published and you can see what articles have cited that since its publication. And then of course the references. So that's the backward and the forward of the searching, okay? In this case, if I wanted to find this article, I'd click on Find It at FIU to search across those 1,200 plus databases for the article. Any questions on that? On that quick demo? I sped right through, I know, I'm quick. Just to check with, just do a quick check with you all. Was this something new? Did you learn something new from what I've just shown? Or was this kind of review and you're like, this is old. I already know this.
This is new for me. I didn't know we have the option to use the Play-Doh and especially the mind mapping. I actually like that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, for me, Cradle is very new for me.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. I'm glad we learned something new. Okay, so now I think I'm turning it over to Sabine, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing and Sabine's going to take over. Sabine, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
I realize that. Thank you. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so this is step 2 where we identify, and it's really this identifying is really your publication strategy really starts to take shape. So you've done the foundational work, which is, finding out the research, and you wrote something like Sarah mentioned, like in your class, or you wrote something, you just wrote something. And so you know your topic, you've read the literature, and you've thought about that methodology, right? So now the question is, where does this work actually go? So I'm gonna reframe the question slightly. Instead of asking what's the best journal for my paper, I want you to start asking who are the communities that need to hear what I'm saying. So that's what I would push you to think about when you're thinking about, where it should go. All right, let's go to the next slide here. All right, so when identifying potential journals, and I'm just going to focus on journals right now, the first thing I would say is to ask other people, faculty, or colleagues what they've done or where they've published for potential journals, like just in passing, like, what's a good journal? Sometimes your colleagues are serving on a journal, or sometimes they know people that they can connect you with, that you can ask more questions about the journal, or, you can get some sort of mentorship as well. Also, like Sarah just showed you, you can actually search the literature on your topic and make a list of journals. So if there's something, if you're writing on something and you use like a few articles, that's how I noticed where to publish my own stuff, because I would cite from those articles and I was like, I wonder, they're probably interested in the same topic, let me go and do that. And that's how I got involved with another cognate field, and I'll talk about what a cognate field could be for you. But I got involved with more education stuff as opposed to librarianship, because I was looking up things that I was interested in writing about, and it would happen to be coming from a lot of higher ed and adult learning journals. Okay. And then next, we already talked about reviewing the list of references, but this is so important. to do, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but you also can use other tools as well. There's tools called like Jane, Spy Hub, and Note Manuscript Matcher that you can put in your topic, and it's really cool to like just kind of see where it thinks your topic should go. So if you don't want to ask people, there's multiple ways to do this. So you can, Google search, you can, but you can also put in your keywords from your article and it'll actually like match you up with what journals you should submit to. Also, browsing, the titles within the journal citation reports. And there's another tool as well, but we're going to just focus on journal citation report today. And also, making sure you look up their policies when you do find these journals to make sure that, if you want to do open access, the costs associated with that and all of the policies or embargoes that could come along with doing that. All right. Any questions about that? All right. Um, so, think about the unexpected. Sorry. Um, some journals do accept cold submissions, even if they're not looking. So you can still submit even if there's not a call for papers, because sometimes they just bank them and just publish them in a issue. And so also under this, box cold submissions, I've done personally just reached out to people that were editors of journals, like in LinkedIn, and said, I'm interested in submitting to your journal, but this is my topic. Do you think it would be a good fit? And or if you go to a conference, you can actually, if you know this person, who they are, what they look like, you can go up to them. And I've done that. Personally, I went up to people and struck up conversation, knowing that they were the editor of a journal that I wanted to be published in. And they were like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. And they were able to get me in quickly. So kind of making that human connection sometimes can get you into a journal. And then you have to understand too, there's sometimes some journals are really good, but they have a very long publication cycle or wait list. Like everybody wants to publish in that journal. So that's why I say that I didn't put it in the box, but this is something I always tell people informally. Try to make connections with people outside of just that portal where you're submitting to the journal. Like kind of find out who they are and see if you can talk to them and get advice because they want the journal to be published, and I mean your article to be published in a journal, believe it or not. And I've been a part of an editorial board where the editor was like working with people to get them up to a level where their article can actually be published to me to a degree that I most other journals wouldn't. So talking to a colleague, like if somebody is asking me, I would say they should do it with my journal that I just came from on the editorial, that I just finished serving on the editorial board, because they actually do give you a lot of chances to fix mistakes, and they're very patient with their authors. So that's something I know that you wouldn't know if you just looked it up on their website. So also formatting is very important and could affect acceptance. So making sure you have another set of eyes that you trust to look over your paper. And I have to emphasize trust, because sometimes you are in competition depending on with someone else, and you may trust them. So you have to find someone that's more of a mentor type person that's not in competition directly with you for some of the information that you might be writing about. And then being open to publishing in cognate fields. Like I said, I write a lot about librarianship and care, and I ended up writing more on, I was writing about adult education because I happened to be doing my doctorate in education. So I ended up, getting a lot of essays and write final essays that I wrote and they were really good, and my professors knew people and they would like connect me with those people. So sometimes I'm not a, education person, but I ended up publishing in education journals because of that. And also review like the current journal's table of contents to look for themes and common topics. And also make sure if the journal you really want to be published in, make sure they don't have an open call for papers that doesn't relate to your theme. So that is the unexpected, but it's very fun when you do go through this and you kind of get your feet wet into this world. All right. Other publication types, and I am proud to say I've probably published all types in all these different areas. I've done all types of publications. I've written for conference papers and workshops and white papers. I've done technical papers and reports. I've done, I've uploaded to institutional repositories, blog posts. So I started in very low. Like I would, somebody would say, we need somebody to write a blog post. I started to get my feet wet with writing in a very low stakes, formats for a long time. So it's nothing wrong with that because it's building up your writing ability and your confidence. And also they give you feedback, like you need to rewrite this or this wasn't right. And so it's a blog post, so it's not like it's going out just anywhere. So I did that. And then of course, writing a book, I wrote a book and I also did a book chapters. And those things actually helped me to be more open to the feedback that does come with publishing. And believe it or not, you're going to get feedback. So with what, even if you're really good, you're going to get feedback on anything that you write. So that's something that you have to be open to. It's nerve-wracking, but it's not a bad thing. It's meant to strengthen you and actually get you published into the journal or the publication type. All right, so let's see. What did I miss? Did I miss anything, ladies?
No, I think you covered it all. I think your experience is, I would agree with your experience. I don't have, I've never published a book, but it seems like the editors, they want to help you. They encourage you. Like, the one publication that Sabine was a reviewer for, reached out to me and said they saw a conference presentation that I did, and they said, "Are you interested in publishing?" And they are gently prodding me along, but I haven't got it yet. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
And they do, like, that's like another thing. Something I had said, like, presented at a conference I was just presenting and they came out and they just talked to me about presenting. And then they said, "Are you interested in publishing?" I said, "Not really. I would love to publish on this though, because I already had something in mind." So, going to conferences and workshops and connecting with people and not being shy to approach people or to talk to the person who's presenting that's on the same topic is so crucial. And also, believe it or not, the editors are looking, they're looking around for people too. So what happened to Sarah happens all the time. Like, you're publishing, you're doing a workshop, and then they're asking you, why don't you make this into a book chapter? Or why don't you publish something with us, or, a journal or an article for this blog post? So anything could happen really. But I'm a big fan of looking at it as like your research agenda is bigger than one output. And I try to diversify, even though there are some outputs that are more scholarly than others. But I like to diversify because what I'm studying, I would like even a regular person to read it. So I do try to post blog posts on my ideas and things like that, and also post on social media. And I've done the whole gamut. So I guess I'm not a scholarly snob that I feel like I can't. I just want to reach as many people as I can. So, I can ask a question. Has anyone here ever published in a non-journal format or journal at all here? Yet? It would happen soon. Anyway, no, you don't have to say it out loud, but if you want to say it on the chat, that would be great. Just so I know where people are.
And just a follow up to that,
Yes.
why did I guess, maybe a better question might be, what made you come to this workshop today? To get an idea. I know we had Brandy and Ryan joined a little late, but what made you sign up for this workshop? Is it because you're interested, you have ideas about publishing, or you just want some more guidance? Can you give us an idea of why you're here?
Yeah, I have not published anything before, but so that's why I'm here, to get some insight on, especially like identifying where to publish.
Okay, perfect. And Brian, what are you studying? Where do your research?
Marine biology PhD.
Okay.
I'm studying marine mammal behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility to, sometimes the professors will have like class projects that would be an excellent way for you to start interacting with the publication work. Because sometimes after a research intense project, the professor would want to create a poster or an abstract, conference proceeding, or even publishing and have you as a co-author So just like stay in the lookout for those.
Mhm.
I love when they do that. Like, I've had a lot of professors, like one of my professors in my doctorate program, he actually was an editor of a journal, and he was like, the best two papers in the class is going to get published in this journal. And I
Nice.
happened to be one of the best two papers, and I was published. That was like the first time I was published. And so, I mean, I had been published in all these other non-scholarly things because I always liked writing for a while. So, but I've never been published like where I can actually see the journal, and like, wow, that was really exciting for me, and it kind of got me like, I should continue. So it kind of got me, so it built up my confidence. So it's trying to find, trying to see if there's some way you can maybe, be a part of the team writing something, or, but of course, you have to you have to know what your research agenda is too. So that's where I kind of built up my research agenda in my doctorate. So, but it can happen even in your master's. So you don't have to be a doctoral level person. And we've had really great undergrads that came to some of our workshops, and they had a like incredible research agenda, like, and we were helping them in the workshop, like trying to identify, how to get some more sources and things like that. So, um, there's no one way to do this, to get into it. But I would say make sure whoever is guiding you, that you trust them and that they'll lead you where you need to go. And
And we can help you through some of this process as well, right? Coming full circle, we are still here. We are here in the library to help you, definitely.
yeah.
Go ahead, Brandy.
Question.
Go ahead,
Brandy's hand.
Brandy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a quick question about you're saying that we're able to take things that we've done in conferences, such as posters or even workshops we've presented at different conferences. How do we turn those into something we can actually publish? Because, for example, I've done poster presentations for SEPA, and I thought that because I already did it once someplace that I wasn't able to utilize that same information and republish it or represent it. Could you clarify that for me? I would really appreciate it.
Who wants to start? Should I do it?
Go ahead, Sabine. I'll chime in.
Yeah, you
Somehow
have to
connected
just
to my
piggyback.
portion.
Joanna probably knows too.
Hmm.
Okay. I would say,
Go ahead.
someone once told me, like, I had a dissertation. Someone once told me, of course I had a dissertation, but I did my dissertation. Someone once told me when I was talking to them, they're like a PhD, and they were like, "Oh, you can make that into 5 different ways. Like find the different angles in your dissertation and write on something else." Like my dissertation had two sets of participants. If I wanted to, I could be like, I'm just gonna do graduate studies, um graduate students only, and just focus on that and write something on that. And if I wanted to, I could say undergraduates only, or if I wanted to. So there was a lot of different angles I could have taken for my dissertation. And also you can expand the dissertation into a book. And so going back to poster, it's the same concept. You have it depends on what the topic is, but the poster you didn't go into much detail, but you did have a lot of notes probably. You probably did write an outline in some way. You can start, doing your methodology, your literature review, where you got your information from, your study, if you had a study that you drew from. Start doing that. You just break down each part of the journal article, whatever their formatting is, and you answer the questions in there, and it's not going to be fully fleshed out, but it's a start to kind of like, okay, I have my methodology. This is the literature review. This is the discussion of what we found, things like that. So does that make sense? Is that answering the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also for things, so we're saying, for example, I presented a poster at SEPA last year. I can actually take that, and it's not the actual poster itself that I'm submitting. I'm actually turning that into like a journal article, and that's what I would see published. Do
Yeah.
I have that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
No.
also the possibility to look for journals that have supplements that are open for
grade literature that want to just do a conference proceeding issue or section in one issue. You can also look at repositories, like scholarly repositories, like the FIU one. That's what I'm saying, that in the next section, we can go in depth into it.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the insights.
Excellent. Okay, so we're now at step 3.
Okay,
All
I think
right.
oh,
So I'll
it's me.
share.
Oh no, it's me, Joanna. Isn't it?
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Let me go to slideshow. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. So step 3 is evaluate. Step 3 of the publishing cycle is evaluate. So think about format types. So we talked a little bit about peer review. To talk a little more about that, we're going to talk about open access. Something we have to evaluate and be aware of are predatory journals, because they are out there. And we'll give you some red flags to be aware of. And then we'll talk about journal finders and rankings. So some questions to ask yourself. Similar to what Sabine was saying, why am I publishing? Who's my target audience? Do I have reasonable expectations? You know, the conference presentation that I did, they asked me to publish for. I responded saying, well, I had this, oh, I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Okay, all right. I never have my ringer on. Sorry. Everybody awake?
Yes.
I am. Yeah. So the conference presentation that I did, when they approached me about a week later by email saying, "Are you interested in publishing?" I responded saying, "Well, I have this other idea," and they said, but now that I'm still thinking about it, I think, well, maybe my other idea is not as reasonable as the publication or the presentation I did. So we have to have reasonable expectations. Is publication relevant for the research topic? Maybe, or what type of publication is relevant for the research topic might be a better thing. Maybe a blog posting is better. Maybe an article in a trade magazine is better. Or maybe a peer-reviewed article or a book chapter. There are pros and cons of top-tier journals. Sabine mentioned a few of them. Sometimes they take a long time to come out in publication. Sometimes they can be difficult to get in. But also, on the pros guide, you know, it is a top tier journal in your field. It really does shine. And of course, ask other publication types that might serve your purpose of why you're publishing, your audience, and your expectations for it. So similar to what Sabine said, but just it's good to reframe it in a different way. So this is a quick demo on peer reviewed. So I showed you how to check the box in the database for peer reviewed, but basically you are studying something. You write your results up. This can apply to like Brandy's poster session, for example. She wrote up her results and did a poster for it, right? The next step would be the journal editor. You submit it to, after you write up your results with your methodology, your literature review, your conclusions, your future considerations, and you put it in a journal format. The journal editor receives the article and sends it out for peer review. Those peer reviewers read the article and provide feedback to the editor, who relays that information to you. It's usually a blind peer review process, meaning that you don't know who is providing the feedback, and the peer reviewers don't know who you are. And it leads to a higher quality of a journal. And then if the reviewers think your article, your research is good, sound, reliable, credible, it'll be published eventually after you make all the edits they want you to make. And sometimes the edits can be heavy. Sometimes they can be kind of, and Sabine probably can back me up on this. Sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 editors or peer reviewers, and they'll all tell you different things, but kind of contradict each other. And that's where the editor can really help you with that. And then finally, after you've gone through this process, it will be published. And you can find it usually in one of our library databases, one of our 1,200 plus databases. So that's a peer review process. That is an option for you. Open access journals is another format, I would say. They do publish peer-reviewed scholarly research as well, but the difference is open access is immediately, permanently free access online. There's no barriers, there's no paywalls or subscription fees to access the journals. There are some fields in academia that are really strongly focused on open access journals. Yesterday we had our library fair, and I was talking to the GIS person, and he said that, yeah, open access is huge in geographic information systems, but also he said, you know, he's like, really, we tend to publish and trade publications because we want to get the word out about GIS. But open access means that it's open, right? There's no paywalls, there's no barriers to access, as long as you have an internet account or you can get on Wi-Fi. So it can mean high impact. It can mean high prestige. It can be high quality of peer review. It will have a peer-reviewed methodology. It's sustainable, which is very important. And it can, depending on the discipline, it can have an effect on tenure and promotion. Some disciplines still want the non-open access publications. They are ranked higher, but more and more disciplines are moving towards open access, luckily. And open access can mean high article quality, okay? So that's open access, what it means, and when you're framing, and depending on your discipline, I think probably marine biology, they probably do a fair amount in open access would be my guess. And some other
Yeah,
fields.
they do.
Yeah. Okay, so then just to make sure we make it clear, open access does not mean predatory, but we do need to evaluate and make sure that open access perfect looking journal is not a predatory journal. Predatory publishers prioritize self-interest over scholarship. They give false information. There's poor editorial practices. There's a lack of transparency. There's aggressive solicitation. So when I was approached after that conference by the editor of one of the editors of that journal, I knew the journal because I've been in the field. Well, I was born yesterday, but I've been in the field for a long, long time. So I knew that it was a legit journal. But had I got something like a cold call email, I would be asking questions. Are they being aggressive? Is there typing errors, problems with their email that they're sending me, asking me to publish in that journal? Some red flags about predatory journals, some things to be asked, actually to ask about any journal that you're thinking about publishing. If you don't know the journal, right? If the title is very similar to another well-known journal, that's a red flag. That happens. I had a faculty member I was working with a couple of years ago, and she reached out to me. She was writing an article with another faculty member at a different institution, and she said, "Sarah, you know, we're thinking about publishing this journal. She's like, my co-author wants to publish in this journal." She's like, "But I'm not sure." In the end, it ended up being a similar, well-known journal. And it was a predatory publication. They actually ended up going a different route. Usually, predatory journals have a broad and nebulous scope. They can't really pinpoint what they're about. They will include made-up impact factors, and Sabine's going to show us how to find an impact factor for a journal. If you can't find the publishing contact information, I would probably say, ask your librarian. We can help you. We will find a better journal for you to consider. And if they're advertising fast submission to publication time, that's a red flag. Anything that has a lot of grammar and spelling mistakes, stay away from it. And if they are trying to charge for publishing, but it's not available, or they want the money up front, definitely red flag, okay? If there's any lacking policies on peer review process, licensing, copyright. Something I forgot to mention, open access. So open access sometimes, well, many of the journals do charge to publish in them because it's not to get your publication in print, but it's to be able to keep it open, right? To keep the servers going for the information's out there and open. So if any open access journal is asking you for the money up front, run far away. And if they're charging for publication, but they're not telling you how much the publication fees will be, run. Come to us, come to the library, reach out to your librarian, and we can find a better publication for you. And we can ask these questions, right? I mean, these are questions that you can ask yourself. So that's step 3, a little bit about, you know, things to think about. when you're evaluating sources. And I think maybe step 4 is next. I'm going to stop sharing.
Step 4 is me again. All right, so I was getting it all set up. So speaking of credible journals, I got an email and I wanted to share the email with you guys and see if we can use journal citation reports to search. I got an email from a journal and it just doesn't seem right to me and I need to so I got an actual email this week and I want to search it. I said, we'll just do a live demo of searching someone that cold emailed me. So let me share the PowerPoint real quick. Again. Start from the current slide. Right? Minimize. Sorry. All right, so we're going to just talk about dissemination and access. We did speak about the institutional repository. Our institutional repository at FIU is called Digital Commons. And I wanted to just talk a little bit before that about checklists that you could use. Sarah gave a really good checklist, but there's actually a website that called thinkchecksubmit.org. And basically you can use it for both books and journals. And also something that most people don't know if you've never published a book, they're peer-reviewed as well, especially if they're like educational books or if they're in a area. So some of them are peer-reviewed, and even if they're not, if they're professional development books, they have your peers check to see if, if there's any comments or anything more they should add, or so there's a lot of peer review there as well. So I didn't get published without a group of my peers saying, yes, we want to know more about what she's talking about. So just to let you know that both areas, book and journal, they have a peer review, and sometimes it's double. So after you've published the book, someone will read your book like a beta reader and give you feedback. So just to be careful or mindful of that, not careful. All right. So there's some online tools that you can help to guide your publication choices. There are two distinct tools, and one is called journal finders, and then the other one is journal rankings. So journal finders, like I said earlier, are like tools that help you match your manuscript. So if you already know your keywords, you're doing something with public health, or you can start to kind of search that up. And you can put in your keywords, your title, your abstract, and other details. So if you already have the title, like you have a title, especially if you Brandy, when you said you had your poster, you can put the title of your poster in here, and any one of these here. Springer, Journal Suggester, IEE, Jane, Taylor and Francis, Journal Suggester, Spy Hub, Elsevier, Journal Finder, DOAJ, and there's like the list goes on and on and on. But those are the ones I've tried. And and all of them do something different. So you can try more than one. You don't have to be shy about putting in your title and searching, especially if you had an abstract for your poster, you can put that in as well. So, okay. All right, so journal rankers are tools that help you evaluate journals, the actual journal based on various citation metrics and data sources. So you typically in journal rankings, people use these so that they can find the top journal in that topic or the field that they're trying to publish in. So sometimes this matters if you're trying to become a professor or if you're trying to boost your, you know, you boost your, I don't want to say credibility, but your scholarly output, basically going up into that. Sometimes people use this to kind of find those things as well. And also just, a lot of other things, but we'll go into more detail when I show it to you in a minute. So I'm going to show you Clarivate Analytics. It's actually Web of Science journal citation reports. It's in our database. I'm going to pop it open right now. I'm going to double check I didn't miss anything in the chat. Oh, that was Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. All right, let me share my screen really quickly. Make sure that's up. Can you guys see that screen? I don't think it's switched, but just in case.
I can
Here
see
it
the
is.
library website.
Okay, good. That is what I want. So when you want to find journal citation reports, let me double check, make sure I'm on the right notes. You want to make sure you navigate to find A to Z database lists. There's more than one way to get to journal citation reports, but we're going to go here because to me this is the more common way. You just, click on J, and then you scroll down to journal. Oh gosh, did I miss it? Yes, there it is. And typically when I like something, I just bookmark it. So you can do that as well. And I did log in, but I guess it logged me out. It always happens. So you log in, and that's normal. And it'll take you Web of Science, and it'll take a little minute, but you'll get there. So I'm going to share this email that I got from a journal this week. I got a journal email. It's called do you guys see my email? It's called American Journal of Information Science and Technology, AGIS. AGIS. All right, so I just, looking at this, looking at the conducting rigorous peer review, that just kind of like jumped out at me, like, because I published something and I guess they're like, oh, you should do it with us, or I don't know what they're asking for actually. So that's what confused me, but I'm gonna put the journal name and see what pops up. It's gonna be a surprise to me because this is the world's leading journals and publisher neutral data. If it's not in here, what does that mean? What does that mean? Right away, it's not really, maybe I can take off this.
We're still seeing the
Oh, my
email
bad.
We're
thread.
just seeing the
I
email.
meant to share the other screen. I'm sorry. Let me put it in. Thank you. All right. It's, as you can see, it says no results found. Now, I'm searching it without without the AGIS acronym. I'm going to search it again, and it says no results found again. So this is why you would want to, like, if you get these emails, because when you publish somewhere else, you get solicited from other journals, and sometimes students cite these journals, and the professors are like, these are not credible journals. So you have to be very careful and it's asking me to become an editorial board member, and also it's called asking me to send a journal, and I didn't even reach out to this. I don't know any of the people on the board either. So that's another red flag. So for me, it's not in here. I wouldn't take this. I would just delete this email or just mark it as spam. Also, the links kind of worry me. Like if I click on the link, I feel like I'm going into something. So no results found, but I'm gonna just search so you guys can see how this works. Journal of Academic Librarianship, which is our like marquee journal for academic librarians like us. I'm gonna open that up so you can see how this works. What you do is you just run a search for whatever journal that you're looking to publish in. And if you've run Journal Finder, like you've done a Journal Finder, you can actually go in here if you found one and you can see where it stands in the impact factor. Some of these are not going to mean anything right now because of just, where you are in your research journey or your writing journey. But you're going to go look at these and you'll see what they've been citing and what the citation counts are, and how that goes from, from that. And you'll see the domain as well in these as well. And then you can keep going into journal citation indicator, the total amount of citations and, things like that. Now, all this is not really necessary, not really, that important depending on where you are in your career and what your department would like you to do. If you get into a career where you need to have a high impact factor, which is this number here. So maybe your department may say, hey, you need to find a journal that has a 3 point something. For a library science journal, 2.3 is pretty good. And so, and so that is pretty good for a library science journal or library information science. So, and of course, the most cited journal doesn't mean that you're not going to get published. Just because this is a AI framework here doesn't mean that you can't still publish into Journal of Academic Librarianship if I wanted to publish into there. So just because that was their most cited doesn't mean that they don't have other things. That's why reading these, this list to see where you fit in into the journal, what they look at too, and you'll see, what happens. So I use my domain as an example. But you can do the same, for yourself. And if you're on a computer or on your phone, you can kind of follow along and put in journals that you kind of know from your profession. If you don't, the first thing is just to go to Journal Finder and look for things. But also, you can also go in here and just search by category as well. Because sometimes, you can use this as a journal finder. So you can go into biology and biochemistry and you can look up marine biology, since we have a marine biology person here, and you can look at that category and see what the journals are from your category, and you can limit it by, the highest would be Annual Review of Marine Science. And then it goes, and you can look through, and sometimes your professor might be on the board for the journal. You never know. And so that's something, looking that up and going into it would so I love that you can go into your categories. Also, if you're aware of the publisher, you can go in, like, let's say the majority of the things you read are from Elsevier or Springer Nature, as you can go in there and look for it, and and look at the different number of journals that the Springer Nature has. There's a lot of journals, and so you can look through it that way. What I did with my category, because I didn't know what the journals were, like, maybe about 8, 9 years ago. So I, used this because I would help my education students when I was an education liaison, to find, article journals, because their professor always assigned this assignment. So, we would look in their domain, and they would, some of them were art teachers, different types of educators, and so sometimes we'd look at different things, and they would find journal articles, and they would kind of like, work through what the impact factors were, because, some of them will end up becoming professors. So they wanted them to know how to understand that. Um, but any questions about this? Anything that I missed or anything that you would like to see? Also, you don't have to limit you do want to, find a really great, not peer reviewed, but a really great, credible journal. And like I showed you from my example, I got an email, and it interested me a little bit, because I was like, oh, maybe I can like kind of take it and put it into another journal or write a different angle. But I was like, I've never heard of that journal. And I know all the journals now, because I've gone in here and looked up the majority, like the top 20 journals in my, and of course, I know all the other ones. So I was like, I never heard of that one before. And so we ran a search. That's what we did. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. So we ran a search for a journal, didn't find the journal in here. So for me, that tells me that journal's not credible, or it may even have an ISSN, but does not mean that they didn't make that up. And and so it's just, you just have to make sure that it's somewhere where you can, that you won't be, posting on something that, or uploading into something that might take your work. So that's just the best thing I can say about that. But it's really, I think like I said earlier, I use this as a tool to really understand my field and like make decisions about where to publish. So on my, my next, goals for publishing, I went in here and I was like, okay, these 3, 4 journals, I'm going to try to submit to those journals. So, um, yeah. So just make sure, if you have any questions about this, or if you have, we usually focus on the citation reports, but the journal finders are all out there, and you can always just, if you already have an abstract, you already have a title, just put it in and go in here and check, it, and see where it lands in your field. So that's that for me. I'm going to pass it over to Joanna for step 5.
Brandy has a question.
Sabine, I think we have a question.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't see because I was over here, but yes, Brandy.
That we're able to see when abstracts or submissions, like all the deadlines, in an easy way, or is that something we have to go into the journal and dig for,
Yeah.
just to see an overview of like when we can submit, etc.?
Yeah, and that's what those links are there in journal citation, but I'm sorry I didn't open one up, but there's a link there, and it take you to the journal, and then you go from there. Some of the journal finders do have that information, but journals, change editors, they change initiatives every year. So you want to look up right on their website and or email the editor like, is this still updated? Because sometimes, the editor changed and it's not apparent to the public, but and then also you can also just you know, I always just say email. I'm very big on just reaching out to people. So because especially if you're a new researcher or writer, just, reach out. You might get a mentor out of that. I actually had a really good, situation where someone, that's the person who told me, hey, you should be taking this dissertation and writing multiple pieces out of this. This is really good work. You did a good job. And they just happened to just be looking at my CV and clicking on links and reading my work. And so they were like, this can be spun off. And they gave me that advice. I've heard it before, but I've never, heard it. And I've never thought of that for myself. So just, make sure, just to go back to your original question, just to make sure you use these, you can click on the links, but go to the website. And if it seems like it hasn't been updated in a while, which it should be, you can reach out to the editor directly. They encourage that.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. And congratulations with that. That's pretty cool experience.
Yes, thank you. Any other
All right.
questions
So
before we move on to Joanna?
there you go. So we are now on step 5, and it's like wrapping up and closing the circle because this information live is a cycle that ends up feeding its own itself, right? So when we are going to now talk about the latest stages of the publication cycle and how we as librarians can support you during them, and also dive deeper into citation metrics and the resources that we have available for that. So as you can see here in this nice graph, the earlier stages, now that we have covered the prior stages of the publication cycle, we are going to go deeper into the preservation, which is the moment when you are going to display all this information to the world. And we librarians are going to make sure to get a better, the highest quality for the display and recoverability of your data. And there is also the reuse stage, which is at the very end when your work is going to be cited. It's going to be found through these citation tools that Sabine was mentioning. So when they are found, this is going to get your work cited, and it's going to open doors to new knowledge. So this is how the snake feeds itself. And we are next going to specifically discuss the preservation stage, because at this point, we librarians are behind the scene working on the scholarly repositories, making sure that the quality of the data it's compliant with the latest standards. And there is a standard that is supposed to take care of that the data is findable, that is accessible, that is interoperable, and reusable. It's called FAIR. So you as authors, when you submit the work, you can help make your information recoverable by making sure that the metadata that you upload, that there are no typos, that the description of the keywords is clear, and the data sets or the full text, everything that you submit to a platform, it has to go through the lens of thinking this that I'm submitting is going to be a tool for other people, for users to access this information. So what you see here is the perfect platform for you to submit your scholarly publications here at FIU. It's our digital scholarly commons, and it is available for you to upload your intellectual productions. And it doesn't have to be just published articles. It could be great literature too. So for that prior question that we had about publishing a poster or a conference proceeding, this is a good place to display those as well. Our digital commons, our institutional repository recently migrated from the digital commons to TIN. So the librarians that work in that department with the digital repository and with the digital collections, they are making sure that the quality of the information transferred correctly. And now this is the point when they have to generate like a clear link to the record, and it's a link that has to work for you to include in your CV. So once you have something uploaded here, it's a stable connection, it's a stable link that you can provide in your CV or share with your students or with your, you know, readers, fellow librarians, anybody that is interested in following your intellectual production. Same with the research data portal. We have a portal just for you to upload your data sets. So if your work has data sets, it is good for transparency to upload your data sets here and make it openly available. And it's all, of course, depending on copyright. You just have to make sure, same with the institutional repository, that if you are uploading something, you have the copyrights with the publisher where you originally published your research to make it publicly available in a platform like this. But once you do it, it's going to have a lot more eyes on you. This is something that the main search engines recover, and it's going to just bring you interest from people working on the same field. As Sabine just mentioned, that happened to her. More eyes is more collaboration. More eyes is more people saying, oh, I'm interested in this. Why not to start a new project? Things like that. So just make sure that everything that you submit to our digital commons and our repository is with the highest quality on your end. In the description of the keywords, be very meticulous, because every keyword that you're submitting, every correctness in the title or in the name, you're appearing as an author, it's recoverability in the future. And then we also have this aspect of the reuse, which is the beautiful moment when all this intellectual production is out there, and it's going to be part of metrics that are competing metrics that overlap themselves. As Sabine was mentioned, Clarivate has the journal citation reports. We're going to see other databases that have citation metrics as well, but they all contribute to visibility, to ranking, and for you to have an opinion, and for your decision making on what is the journal that you are going to select, what is the co-author or the expert in the field that you want to reach out to, etc. So as you've heard today, there is the impact factor, which is that very long, complicated formula that is an eye-crossing formula nobody knows by heart, but this is automatically calculated, and this impact factor has been criticized. So even though we have access to the impact factor through Clarivate, we know that this is not the only ranking that is out there, and that it's been judged as being biased, because not all the fields or all the disciplines are indexed equally. So just keep an eye on that, and this doesn't have to be your only ranking method for you to evaluate publications. There is a link here to this amazing LibGuide that Sarah Hamill here in the meeting, she's responsible for. Let's take a look at it, and you can see how she created and maintains this LibGuide, where it's an easy way to locate the main impact and metrics for authors, like the H index, the G index, and the I-10 index, which is the one that is indexed under Google Scholar. And there's also Altmetrics, which are alternative metrics for authorship that has to do with social media, this phenomena that now it's not only what it indexes the official databases, but what gets reposted in X or in Facebook or in Instagram, etc. There is also like a nice list of resources that link to the journal impact. And we have a few of them. let me go back to the presentation. Here under our A to C databases, and Sabine already mentioned journal citation reports. You can also look for Scopus. Scopus has amazing tools, like you can click on sources under looking Scopus A to Z, and once you're in the database, you can take a look at the resources there, rank them by year or by the highest ranks, arrange them by subject area, which is super useful depending on, your field, that type of thing. And there are other citation metrics that Scopus offers at the journal level, article level, and authorship that are very encompassing. So this is another good tool that I would strongly recommend that you look at for indicators. And if you want help navigating these, please make sure to reach out to the librarians. We have a team that can help you with that. There is this resource that is part of the Elsevier suite, which is SciVal, and it's specifically meant to visualize your research performance, but it helps you benchmark it, develop strategic partnerships. It helps you compare with other people from other nations, because it has large benchmarks and over 20,000 research institutions are encompassed in here. So you can take a look at your own intellectual production and compare it around FIU or other institutions. The resource on the screen now is SciMago. It's also great for journal rankings, but it's open access, so you do not need a subscription through FIU. And this one is open access. You can download full subject areas, regions, and years. And they offer their own SciMago journal ranking that and also offer age index metrics. There is also the very popular Google Scholar, and this is just one more. Then you can search a specific scholar and then go under the left-hand menu and look for the profiles and take a look at the rankings for a specific author. So under advanced search, look for the cited by too, whenever you find like a good article, and you can take a look at who cited that article. That is another good citation measure of how many have cited that one article. But if you want to go to the author level, this profile search, it's an excellent tool from Google Scholar. All in all, there is no lack of good resources. There is just like a super abundance of them. And there are so many different indicators that we recommend that you reach out to the librarians. We have a team, and we are all experts in different areas. So as you can see here, your librarians, experts in your field, can be excellent guides for you. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and we are going back to our host, which I think is Sarah.
Hey, Sabine, are you closing?
I wasn't.
Okay. I can.
Oh,
Joanna, do you want to close? Do you have the rest of the
that's
slide?
fine. Yes, let's do that. Okay, so I'll go back to are you sharing, or would you like me to go back to sharing?
You go ahead.
Share.
Does anyone have any questions while Joanna's pulling up her screen? Anything that you wish we had covered that we haven't covered? Anything you want more information on? Or maybe other workshops that you're interested in? We are always trying to fine tune our WorkSmart series. Our information is here, of course.
It doesn't look like we got more questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying with us. It's been so much information, so many resources. This is what the library is all about. We have over 1,000 resources. So of course, Thank you so much. I see clappings. Thank you, Brandy. So it's been a pleasure being around here with my wonderful colleagues, and please reach out to us. There you have our contact information. And it's not only the three of us, we have a large team. So just make sure that you reach out to your subject librarians and that you come back to the recording, which you're going to receive in your email. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Happy Friday. Stay dry.
Happy Friday,
So you
yes.
too.